Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. You know, it's been a long time since I've done a tier list. So why don't we do a tier list? I've been thinking about different kinds of tier lists. You know, sometimes we compare games to each other. We rank series against each other. But what I thought might be interesting, and not at all controversial, would be to rank all of the major JRPG series protagonists against each other. I don't mean within the same series, I mean across the broad spectrum of JRPGs. We're going to compare Cloud from Final Fantasy VII to Tyr from Suikoden 1, right? Like, it's gonna get insane up in here. I can almost guarantee that. I'm sweating already. So without any further ado, I think we should just get into it, because we've got like 120 something protagonists to get through. Oh, quick note about how I chose the protagonists on this list. You'll notice, I'm sure, there are some exclusions, and I would love it if you would let me know down in the comments if I excluded any series or game protagonists that you think should have been here. Chances are it was one of two things. Either one, I hadn't played any of the games in that series, so I have no comment and wouldn't necessarily want to just like BS my way through something like that. Or two, they weren't included in the list of best-selling Japanese role-playing games that I found online. I did extensive research, Wikipedia, to find the list of the best-selling Japanese role-playing game series, and I went through there and I selected the games that I have played and have some familiarity with, so that we would have, I'd have a reasonable basis by which to do this, right? So, okay. That was more further ado than I thought. We're gonna get into it now. The ado is behind us. Let's go. Okay, first up, we have Tyr from Suikoden 1. Tyr is a silent protagonist. He uses a bow staff. His outfit is kind of boring. He's got weird pointy shoes. I don't particularly have any feelings for Tyr from Suikoden 1, okay? I'm gonna put him in D, and I don't wanna, starting off on a negative here. I don't want you to be upset. If you love Tyr, let me know why I've ranked him incorrectly down in the comments. But to me, there's just not a lot to him. He's supposed to be this inspiring figure, but he only ever says, 3-word sentences that you choose for him. And I don't know how that inspires a revolution. So D. Next up, we have Ryo. Apparently, these are the canon names for Suikoden 1 and 2's main characters, Tyr and Ryo. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from. I know they're making a Suikoden 2 anime now, but was there some other media in which these characters were named? Because it never crossed my mind to even consider that they had canon names. Anyway, Ryo. He is, by nature of his greater emotional involvement in the story of Suikoden 2, which I'm not going to spoil, I would rank him a little bit higher, despite the fact that he looks almost identical to Tyr. Bad choice, in my opinion. Don't make your main characters look the same as each other. But Ryo, I'm going to put him in C. Okay. Next up is Suikoden 3, and there are 3 main characters in Suikoden 3, so I'm just gonna kind of group them all together. That's what felt the fairest to me. So Suikoden 3, we have Hugo, we have Chris, and we have Ghetto. I played Suikoden 3 in 2003, I wanna say, 2002, 2003, I forget exactly when it came out, but like 22-ish years ago. So I remember very little about Suikoden 3. So despite the fact that I have played it, I have basically no memories of the story or anything about the characters. I'm gonna put this one in didn't play. Again, that's not true. I did play it, but I don't feel comfortable ranking them because I have no memory of them. So didn't play. The same goes for Suikoden 4 and Suikoden 5. Now I have all these games, it's my intention, I'm in the middle of playing through Suikoden 1 on the remaster right now. It's my intention to make my way through the entire series and get the full story, like I never did. I only played through 3 as a kid. So I'm really looking forward to continuing, but I have not done so yet, so didn't play. Okay, next up is Lenneth from Valkyrie Profile. Have you played Valkyrie Profile? It was originally on the PlayStation 1. They did a pretty solid port to the PlayStation Portable, which is where I played it. I, again, remember relatively little about the game. Lenneth has a very cool design. She's a Valkyrie. I think being a Valkyrie alone bumps you up from at least from a D to a C. And then I think her story, as I recall it, going around and finding all these people that are dying and recruiting them and the emotional stories that go along with that. I'm gonna put her in B. Okay, we're moving from Valkyrie Profile to Grandia. Don't ask me about the order. I put these files in here in a certain order, and Apple decided to just kind of resort them according to its whims and not mine. But at least all of the characters are generally together from the same series. I don't know why it chose the order that it did. So next up, Grandia, we have Justin. Justin is a rambunctious, adventurous kid, and he wears shorts. And I don't know what it is about shorts on this kid, specifically this kid's shorts, that bother me so much. I want you to look at these shorts and tell me you're not bothered by them. I don't like Justin's shorts. I also found him pretty irritating, but he is a character. You know, I almost have a hard time putting a character into D unless they really suck. He doesn't suck that bad. He's fine. He's okay. I hate his shorts, and he's a little bit irritating. He's a C. Next up, we have Ryudo, okay, from Grandia 2. Now, Grandia 2 is one that I played ages ago. Again, same era as Suikoden 3, I want to say, on the PlayStation 2. Way, way back. I really don't remember much about Grandia 2. And I have a friend, Miss Mandia, who this is her favorite game. So I am not going to risk disrespecting Miss Mandia or the game Grandia 2 by putting Ryudo in anything that could be construed as me being closed-minded, let's say. I'm gonna put it in didn't play, again, just because it has been so long. The same goes for Yuki from Grandia 3. No memory of Grandia 3. I know I played it. I know I did. I know I played it. Zero memory. I think his mom is like heavily involved in the plot, which is unusual for a JRPG. Usually the mom's dead, but she's like there and very present. But I remember almost nothing about it. Yuki goes into the play. Okay, now we're moving on to apparently Lunar. So the Lunar games are getting remastered imminently. We're all excited about the Lunar games. They're coming from Gung Ho. For some reason, you can't pre-order them, which is very strange to me. I don't think there's a limited edition, which is a bummer, as somebody who loves the Working Designs games and all the fancy crap that they put in those boxes. Love that stuff. So a little bit of a bummer, but you take the good, you take the bad, you take them all. And I guess there you have the facts of life. So Lunar, coming soon. For those of you who have never played it, you're in for a treat. I mean, they're old school, right? They're challenging old school games. I'm pretty sure that there's difficulty options on the remaster, so it's not going to be as grindy and challenging as it was back in the day for people like me, but you're going to have a great time with these games. Alex is the main character of Lunar 1, Silver Star story. Alex is, I think in the original Sega CD Lunar game that Silver Star story was a remake of, I think Alex was a silent protagonist, and that kind of shows in how he's portrayed in Silver Star story. He's not a silent protagonist here. He has a voice, he has dialogue, but it's very rare. He's a very, very quiet protagonist, I think owing to the fact that he was silent in the original version of the game. So there's not a ton to say about him. He loves adventure. He's wearing a little half cloak thing, very fashionable, high-waisted pants. You gotta love it. So I guess I put Alex in a C. He's a C tier. Next, we have Hiro from Lunar 2. Hiro is the hero of Lunar 2. And Hiro is quite a bit more interesting, let's say, than Alex. But I do hate his outfit. And that counts for something. If we're talking about all aspects of the character, I think Hiro's outfit sucks. Don't care for it. So, I don't know. All things considered, I'm gonna give him a B. He's a B. Okay, now we're getting into some heavy hitters, okay? We're gonna get into the Final Fantasy series next. Final Fantasy is a series of JRPGs that nobody has ever fought over. Everyone has always agreed on. That's a lie. Everybody is mad about Final Fantasy all the time. Nobody can decide which one is the best, which ones suck. I'm not here to answer those questions. I'm just here to talk about the main characters. Now, Final Fantasy 1 had the 4 Warriors of Light. There was no main character. You just basically put together a party of classes, of job classes, and you played the game, and it was fun, but there was no main character, so it's not on this list. It's not getting ranked. Final Fantasy II in Japan introduced Firion, who is the protagonist, right? The game had a story with characters that interacted. It was honestly kind of revolutionary for the time. The game plays weird, plays more like a Saga game than a Final Fantasy game, but Firion is an interesting character. I mean, for the time, right? He's not gonna blow your mind. It's not Shakespearean or anything. It's like, it's fine. I would put Firion at a C. Firion is a solid C. He's not a terrible protagonist by any means, but he's also, they get better. Now, Final Fantasy III, I know Final Fantasy III has been remade on like the DS, and I think you can get it on Steam as well. And they took the faceless, nameless characters and gave them sort of personalities and backstories and names. I'm not going to count it because I only have a very limited experience with the DS version of 3, so we're going to leave it off the list. Final Fantasy IV, Cecil. Cecil, the Dark Knight, who goes through a journey of self-discovery and learns that he's a crazy moon man or something. I don't know, it's been a long time, but Cecil was a life-changing protagonist for me. There's no way he goes anywhere but S. He's got to be an S because, look, I don't think that I would be the JRPG player that I am today if I hadn't played Final Fantasy IV-2 at the time, when I did. If I hadn't played that game and experienced that story, I don't think that I'd be doing this, certainly. I don't think I'd have all these games. I think I would be a very different person, honestly, if I hadn't played it. So Cecil having a very interesting story arc, interesting design, and the game itself being so important to me, he gets S ranked, no question. Next up, we have Final Fantasy V. And Final Fantasy V brings us butts, okay? Butts. They tried, the English localizers tried to kind of finagle that into Barts so that we wouldn't make the obvious joke that I'm gonna make. Butts. It's like butts, okay? And there's no way around that. Everybody knows that his name is Butts. They want to call him Barts. Get out of here. He's a Butts. And I don't think there's any question that Butts is, not maybe as interesting as Cecil, maybe not the most interesting Final Fantasy protagonist in general, but as a Butts, he's a solid B. He goes in B. Okay, Final Fantasy VI is almost as paradigm shifting for me as Final Fantasy IV was. I do think Final Fantasy VI is a contender for best Final Fantasy game of all time. And it's one of the very few Final Fantasy games and JRPGs in general that actually has a female protagonist. Kind of has two female protagonists depending on how you look at it. You have Terra, at least for the first half of the game, as the protagonist, and then you have Celeste for the second half of the game. Again, it depends on how you look at it. I'm just considering Terra right now for this list, but you could also make an argument that Celeste is also a protagonist of Final Fantasy VI. I will entertain those arguments in the comments if you want. But for now, we're gonna say Terra. Very cool design from Amino. I will admit, and I don't know if I have to hand in my JRPG card for saying this, I'm not the biggest Amino fan. His art is cool, like it's cool to look at, but it's not great for differentiating characters. All of his characters kind of look the same, right? You can see that across the spectrum of the entire Final Fantasy series. They may have different outfits, but facially, even their hair sometimes, like they are almost indistinguishable from each other. Not the biggest, but anyway, my point is, Terra's design actually, Tina, as she was known in Japan, is actually pretty interesting from what he drew, right? So I do like her design a lot. Very cool to have a female protagonist in a Final Fantasy, and I love the game. She's an interesting, nuanced character. She goes through a lot. She kind of gets put through the ringer, and she comes out the other side stronger. I would call that an A tier character. Next up, we have Cloud. Cloud Strife, Final Fantasy VII. Currently, my favorite Final Fantasy, and I think it's going to be hard for any Final Fantasy game to top it, just because I am desperately in love with the lore of the Final Fantasy VII universe, and Cloud is obviously a huge part of that, right? Not only is he a very cool character, he has very tricky layers to navigate through, right? Like, I'm trying to talk about these characters without spoiling anything from stories because I don't want anyone to be mad and have something spoiled. But I guess suffice it to say, he has very many layers, and his level of trustworthiness is maybe questionable compared to a lot of other more upstanding JRPG protagonists. His design is incredibly iconic. I mean, it's goofy in that sort of Nomura way that we have grown accustomed to over the years. The giant sword, the hair that is just impossible, right? But I just love him. He's an S. That's all there is to it. Squall. Okay, Final Fantasy VIII, Squall. He had to follow up one of the best acts in JRPG history. It's not fair to Squall. He's kind of a boring emo boy in comparison. I remember playing Final Fantasy VIII as a kid and being like, not really understanding why the characters were doing the things they were doing. It didn't make a ton of sense to me. Replaying it as an adult, I saw it kind of through a whole new lens. And I was like, oh, these are stupid kids. These are like 17-year-old kids. If you look at it from the perspective of an adult looking at 17-year-old kids, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense because it doesn't make sense, the things that they choose to do. Squall in particular, right? He's closed off, he's grumpy, he is rude, he's not an enjoyable person to be around. And I'm just not crazy about his arc. He does have the gunblade, which is a very iconic weapon. He's got the little half jacket, again, with the half thing. I don't understand the utility of that, personally. I would want it to be longer for warmth. I'm gonna put Squall in a C. He's a C tier. We have Zidane. Oh boy. So Final Fantasy IX, the big return to the fantasy roots. Zidane is a rapscallion. He's part of a theater troupe. He's got a giant head with pretty bad hair, I would say. He also has a tail, which is interesting. I believe he's the only Final Fantasy main character to have a tail, so that's something. What does that tail get him? I don't know. The story of Final Fantasy IX is interesting. I do like Final Fantasy IX a lot. I'm not as crazy about it as a lot of like the hardcore Final Fantasy people are. I think it's good, kind of like borderline great. There's some issues that I have with it that keep it from being truly great in my mind, but Zidane is okay, and I would give him a B. He gets a B. Final Fantasy X. Okay. Now, this might be controversial, I don't know. I'm not the first person to say this, but I believe it strongly. I don't think that Tidus, I said Tidus, not Titus, Tidus. I don't think that Tidus is the main character of Final Fantasy X. I think he's the focal character. I think he's the person through whose eyes we see the world, but I think Yuna is actually the protagonist of Final Fantasy X. Now, you can debate it, of course, but he's like the Ishmael to the Captain Ahab that is Yuna, right? Moby Dick, famously narrated by Ishmael. I wouldn't say that Ishmael is the main character of Moby Dick. I would say Captain Ahab is. Same thing. Tidus is the Ishmael. So I'm putting Tidus and Yuna together just to, I don't know, avoid as many arguments as I can. Tidus and Yuna are just fantastic characters. Their love story is one of the better in the entire series. I think especially Yuna is a super complex and interesting character, doing the things that she does, going through what she has to go through. And Tidus is also there. So I would give them an A. Tidus and Yuna, they get an A. Final Fantasy 12, I'm skipping 11 because that's, MMO. You make your character. I'm sure your character that you made for Final Fantasy 11 is an S tier. And if I knew what it looked like, put it right there. Vaughn from Final Fantasy 12. Now I know, again, there's a debate here. Was Balthier supposed to be the main character of Final Fantasy 12? Was there internal drama, some shakeups in the development? Maybe, I don't know. But Vaughn is who we have, and Vaughn is who I'm gonna rank. Vaughn is a twerp. Vaughn is a D. He's a D. Okay, Lightning, Final Fantasy 13. This is the game that I think was the first Final Fantasy that I remember being truly controversial. 12 was obviously very different. 11 was an MMO. Not saying there was no controversy around Not saying there's no controversy around those things, but 13 is the game that really split the fan base in the biggest way for the first time that I can remember. Lightning is a part of that, although I don't think she's the main reason that it's so divisive. Again, it's good that we have another female protagonist in the series. You could do worse than Lightning as far as a protagonist goes. I just find her a little boring. I wish that she had a little more personality. Like, there's this concept that some developers have of just like they need the main character to be sullen and serious all the time to give the story weight or something. I don't know, but I don't care for it. And Lightning's a little too sullen and serious for me. I would put her in a C. She's not a D. She's not a D, but I would probably put her in C. Okay, Final Fantasy 15, also very controversial. I love Final Fantasy 15. It's probably, I would say it's in my top 3. Yeah, I'd call it in my top 3 Final Fantasies. People say it's an incomplete game. I disagree. I think it's a perfectly complete game. I think that, well, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about the story. I understand it was a troubled development cycle. It was 10 years in the making, or yeah, 10 years. It was a long time. Noctis is the main character of Final Fantasy 15, and I love Noctis so much because I feel like I relate to him a lot. I think the experience of playing through Final Fantasy 15 and seeing him with his friends, the things that they go through together, the way they interact with each other, the way that he is with them, like he's a prince, but he treats these people like they're his friends, and because they are his friends, right? He doesn't see any difference between them, and he doesn't act in a way that would put himself above them. And I really appreciate that about Noctis. Is he an S tier protagonist for me? I don't think quite. I'm gonna put him in A. I may talk myself into an S later, we'll see. But for now, I'm gonna put him in A because, again, he is very good, but I don't know. I just don't know. He's very good. He's an A. He's an A. Next up, we have Clive from Final Fantasy 16. Clive is actually a very cool and compelling and like positive masculine character. Like he's a very good example of positive masculinity. Like he has emotion and he shows emotion, and it's not just rage, right? Like he has a variety of emotions that he shows, including sadness and vulnerability. He is, again, a prince. I'm seeing a pattern here, but he's again, a prince, and he's kind of been put through some pretty terrible things, and he still is willing to stand up and fight for his people and for the world. I think Clive is great. He's one that I would also put on the borderline of S and A. I'm gonna say A, just because I don't want to give away S's to willy-nilly. I want to conserve them. So I'm gonna put him in A, but know that he's like teetering right there on the border for me. Okay, let's talk about Dragon Quest. Okay, Dragon Quest, obviously one of the most successful, popular JRPG series in the world, certainly in Japan, right? Huge, just enormous. The issue with ranking Dragon Quest protagonists is that they don't have a personality. There's not really a character there, right? It's a blank slate that you are supposed to project yourself on. You occasionally will answer yes or no questions as your character, and everybody loves your character and thinks that you are the chosen one, despite the fact that you have the personality of a brick. So how do I rank them? How do I determine where they go on this list, on this tier list? If they don't have a personality, we have to just go by design. We just have to go by design. That's it. So we're gonna go through these pretty quickly. Dragon Quest 1, he's got the kind of sort of Viking helmet with the horns. It doesn't look like he's wearing pants. I'm gonna give him a C, because I like that he's not wearing pants. I think that's cool. Now, Dragon Quest 2, this character is wearing what looks like flight goggles. I don't think he's flying anywhere. I don't think the power of flight exists in his world. I could be wrong. I'm looking forward to the HD 2D remakes of 1 and 2, by the way, coming soon. But the flight goggles are strange. Are they strange in a bad way or in a good way? I'm gonna say good. I'm gonna put them in B, yeah. Now we have Dragon Quest 3. Here is the first entry where you can choose male or female as your protagonist. They are almost identical. I think the female character is a little shorter. Yeah, I mean, they're basically the same though. So, the purple and the yellow, very good complementary colors. Love to see that. Spiky hair, very, very spiky hair. I don't know, I guess they're a C. See. Dragon Quest 4, again, male and female protagonists. I don't like the weird bat helmet that the male protagonist wears. That's weird to me. It's like bat wings coming out of the side of his head. Don't care for that. The female protagonist has like a stocking, just one stocking, and then the other one's just not there at all. I don't care for the design. We're gonna go D. 5. He looks like a trader from the Sahara Desert with that kind of turban, cape thing with a staff. Very muscular. Good God, all these people are very muscular. Very impressive, the amount of work it would take to maintain that physique. I'm gonna put 5 in B. 6. Dragon Quest 6 hero is almost the very definition of generic, boring JRPG protagonist to me. He's got a sword, he's got a very basic outfit, he's got spiky hair. He's a D. Okay, Dragon Quest 7 is about as far from the stereotype of the JRPG protagonist as I think you can get. He looks like a green bean. You see what I'm saying? I think as a green bean, he gets a B. That's interesting. I like that he looks like a vegetable. Dragon Quest 8, I don't know about the handkerchief on the head look. I mean, he kind of is like cosplaying as a pirate. He does look like he has a little critter in his pocket, which is cute. I guess I would give him I'd give him a B. Dragon Quest IX. I didn't actually know that there was a protagonist in Dragon Quest IX. I thought that it was one that you just made a character, but maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I found on Dragon Quest IX. I haven't played it yet myself. Or again, we're just going off a look, so I feel like I can rate these. This one's just a D. This one's just boring. 10, MMO. We're not gonna talk about it. But 11. My favorite Dragon Quest game by far. It's not close right now. Dragon Quest XI is my favorite. One of the best JRPGs of the last 10 years. The main character, I don't know. His outfit is fine. It's a little odd. The purple's a bold choice. I'll give him that. The hair. I hate his hair. I hate it. I don't know how. It's similar to Zidane if Zidane's hair had no body and was just like limp on his head. He gets a D, and it's just the hair. I'm sorry, it's just the hair. Okay, this one feels like a gimme because it's Mario from Super Mario RPG. The remake on the Switch a couple years ago was tremendous, great, kind of basically one-for-one remake. You love to see it. Super Mario RPG is a classic and it's wonderful. Mario's is he an S-tier character? Yeah, he's an S-tier protagonist. And yeah, a lot of that is coming from Mario's history, right? If we were just going off a Super Mario RPG, would I feel the same? I don't know, maybe I wouldn't. But I can't really separate myself from my literally lifelong, okay, I was 3 years old the first time I played Mario, my lifelong history with Mario. He's an S-tier character in my heart, and I hope in yours. Okay, let's talk about the SMT games, at least the ones that I've played. Have not really played 1 or 2. Well, I've played a little bit of 2, but not enough to have an opinion about it. So we're just gonna start with SMT3 Nocturne. SMT3 Nocturne has the Demi-Fiend, again, the silent protagonist. We don't really have a name, but the Demi-Fiend is looks like a cool shirtless bro with a whole bunch of tattoos. I know they're not really tattoos, they're like Demi-Fiend markings or something, but it's a cool design and the vibes in SMT3 are just off the charts. I'm gonna give him an A just because of the game that he's surrounded by, and his design is cool as well. Okay. Then we have SMT4. Now, SMT4, I have limited experience with. I am not crazy about it. I don't know. I don't love it. I also don't love the design of the main character in SMT4. I'm gonna give him a C. Okay. Next up, we have the protagonist of SMT5. Have not played SMT5, but we can look at him and say, looks like I don't like him, D. Okay. We have Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Now, this is great because we get to cover a lot of games with just one character. Sora is in so many games. And Sora is voiced by Haley Joel Osment, which I think is so fun and wonderful. I think he's still playing to this day, and it's been almost 20 years. I don't know, it's been a long time. And Sora is great, optimistic, go-getter. He just wants to save people. And he uses a big key for a sword, and I think that that's cool. Sora's an A. Okay, we're gonna go over the Tales of series. And these are just the ones that I've played. I'm not covering any of the Japan-only ones. And I think I've covered them all. Let me know if I miss any, but I'm pretty sure I've got them all. First up is Cress from Tales of Phantasia. He is a generic anime dude. Knight, is wearing armor. I don't find that he has like the coolest personality ever. I'm gonna put him in C. We have Stan from Tales of Destiny. Stan has hair that rivals the protagonist of Dragon Quest XI in terms of awfulness. I don't like the outfit either. I can put him in D. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like Destiny. I also don't care for Destiny as much. Eternia, we have Reed, is his name? Yeah. Reed, I hate his design. Again, with like kind of the half shirt sort of thing. Very strange. Don't like half clothes. Put full clothes on, all the clothes. But it does kind of look like he cut the shirt off and then kind of taped it around his midsection just to leave the midriff exposed. Bold choice, but I don't care for it. He's a more interesting character than Stan and Cress in terms of his personality and his involvement in the story. I'm gonna give him a B. Okay, Senel. Senel from Tales of Legendia. He looks pretty dorky. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do like Senel quite a bit. So I think I'll put him in B. He's a B. Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia. His design is okay. It's like, I like the bold choice of the red. He's kind of a goofy, sort of irritating kid, but I think it fits for the character and the world. He's very earnest. I'll give him a B as well. Okay, then we have Luke. Luke has a really interesting character journey that he goes on. His arc is very cool. He starts out as a brash snotty, rude, obnoxious punk. And over the course of the game, he changes a lot. And I think that that's great. You don't see that as often as you might want to. So we're gonna put him in A, actually. Next, we have Aspel from Tales of Grace's F. The remaster is available now, so check it out if you haven't. It is in my top 2 or 3 Tales of games. I really like Grace's F a lot. Aspel is not the most interesting main character, if I'm being honest. He's fine. I don't know, he looks like a televangelist to me. Something about his outfit. I probably would have to put him in B, despite the fact that I like the game so much. Yeah, I feel right about that. Okay, Tales of Exilia. Yeah, okay, I was just reading the Japanese just to make sure I was pronouncing it right. Tales of Exilia. Tales of Exilia is a game with dual protagonists. We have Milla and we have Jude. I think that these two are both very cool. I played as Milla my first time through the game. It doesn't drastically change the story. You get some different scenes based on the vocal character. But Milla is really interesting. She's like a goddess, like come to earth in human form, and she controls the spirits. Cool character. Jude is a doctor. Like, I don't know, there's something about him being, or he's a medical student. I don't think he's a doctor yet. He's, yeah, so he's just like kind of a normal guy and gets caught up in this whole thing. And their story together is really cool. I would put them in A. Okay, Tales of Exilia 2, one of those rare Tales of games with a direct sequel. Didn't care for Exilia 2. I've talked about it before on this channel. Not my favorite. Luger, and his name is Luger, by the way, is the only silent protagonist in the Tales of series, so that's a big for me. You know, his design is fine. He just looks like kind of an office worker who's had a terrible day and wants to hurt somebody. I guess he's a C. His design saves him a little bit, but otherwise there's nothing to say about him because he's a silent protagonist, and that's a bummer. Okay, we have Sori from Tales of Zestiria. Now, a lot of people didn't like Tales of Zestiria. I don't think it was because of Sori necessarily. I think there's a lot of other components to the game that people were not crazy about. I like Zestiria quite a bit. Sori as a character is fine. He's not super interesting. He's kind of along for the ride. I would give him a C. Velvet Crow from Tales of Berseria is one of the coolest protagonists in recent years, especially for a Tales of game, because Tales of games are typically very bright and cheery and optimistic, and Berseria is just the opposite of all of that. It is a like dark and heavy story. It has lighthearted moments, of course. It is still a Tales of game, so there's still goofiness going on, but her story is about revenge and like it's brutal sometimes. So, you know, she does dress a little bit like, you know, a goth girl at a heavy metal concert. You know, take it or leave it, but I think she's cool. I think she gets an A. And then we have Alphen from Tales of Arise. His whole thing is that he can't feel pain. Like he has something that makes it so he's not able to physically experience pain. And that plays into the story because his love interest has some curse on her that if she touches somebody, they experience horrible pain. So it's like a match made in heaven, right? A little bit of a maybe too on the nose metaphor, but what are you gonna do? Alphen is a pretty cool character. I don't think he's A level. I put him at B. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Yakuza games real quick, Like a Dragon. Kiryu is just a great character, very nuanced. He experiences so much. Design-wise, he's just kind of a basic looking Japanese dude, so nothing wrong with that. But I would probably put Kiryu at a B for me personally. I'm sure some of you are expecting him to be at A or S even. For me, I think he'd be a B. Ichiban from the Like a Dragon, you know, 7 and on. He's a very, I like his character a lot. I like how he obsesses about Dragon Quest. I like how, you know, the whole game is framed around this like imagination that he has about how the events in the world are playing out around him. Fun outfit, goofy guy. I would rank him at an A. I'd actually put him above Kiryu, so roast me down below if you think I'm crazy. Okay, now let's do Persona. The protagonist of Persona 1, which I played briefly when I was a child. Persona 1, he was a boy with an earring. He looks like a student. I don't care for him. I'm gonna give him a D. Persona 2, we have Tatsuya and we have Maya, because that game was split into 2 games. I don't really know anything about either of these characters. Maya has heart boobs for some reason. She has hearts there. That's weird. I would probably put them in C because I know very little about them, but their designs are interesting. More so than just a boy that has an earring and otherwise just looks like a student. Okay, now we're getting into the games that I'm very familiar with. Persona 3 has Makoto Yuki, is the canon name. I'm not clear on whether Yuki or Makoto is the first name here, because I've seen it written both ways, and I know, you know, in Japan, they're gonna say the last name first, but I don't know if I'm reading it in English, and so therefore they're putting the first name first, so Makoto is the first name, or if they're writing it like the Japanese would, only using English characters, and so Yuki would be the first name. But Makoto Yuki. He is a brooding kind of loner. If you play the game, you know, he's the silent protagonist, but you give dialogue choices for him, and his dialogue choices are almost always like kind of sarcastic and snotty. So he's kind of a little bit of a jerk, which makes him more interesting than your average silent protagonist. I would give him a B. Then we have Yunaru from Persona 4. I feel a large amount of affection for this character because Persona 4, I think, is still my favorite Persona story, and particularly the anime. So I know this isn't exactly fair because the anime and the game are different, but the anime of Persona 4 I really liked a lot, and you get a ton more characterization for him in the anime because they had to make him a character. And I kind of superimpose that character on him when I play the game now. So I would probably put him at an A. He's an A for me. Then we have Ren Amayami. Amamiya? Yeah, Ren Amamiya. You know, he has dark hair and he wears glasses. He looks cool as a thief, as Joker. I guess I would put him at a B. Because again, he doesn't really have a personality. He's a silent protagonist, but his design's cool, especially as Joker. He's a B. Okay, Xenogears. One of my favorite games of all time, one of the most important games in my life. Xenogears stars Fei Fong Wong. He's a martial artist, he has amnesia, he pilots a giant robot. Basically, he checked every box of what I would think was rad when I was 15 years old. So, I mean, I can't think of Fei as anything but an S-tier character. Not to mention the fact that the exploration of his psyche is such a huge part of the game and is so important to the story and the lore surrounding it. Like, Fei is just incredible, and I love him. He's an S. We have Shion Uzuki next for the Xenosaga games. Shion, again, the kind of rare female protagonist. You'd love to see it. She's just like a dork, and that's cool. I like that we just kind of have a dork as the main character. She gets cooler and more confident as the games go on. By the third game, she's, you know, kind of like flying around fighting and being all cool. But I'm partial to the Shion from the first game, who is just a dork. I think that's great, very endearing. She's an A tier for me. She didn't quite rise to the same level as Fei, in my mind, but she's a very good character. Okay, we're gonna go to Xenoblade. Xenoblade 1 stars Shulk. It's a strange name, and to be perfectly honest, as much as I love Xeno in general, Xenoblade especially, like, it's a great series, I'm not as crazy about Shulk as I think some people might be. His design is cool. He is, you know, he's not an uninteresting character. I'm just not as crazy about him. I think I would put him at a B, especially if I'm looking across the spectrum of JRPGs. There are more interesting characters than Shulk, even within his own series, so I'm gonna put him at a B. Next we have Rex. Rex is, I mean, he looks like kind of a little boy. I hate his outfit, but he does like have a four-way with like, I don't know, he's got this strange romantic entanglement that you never see in the game, but is heavily implied and suggested in future games. Very strange. I don't like him a ton. I think I'd probably put Rex at a C. Ooh. Noah. Now, I feel like you could make a strong argument that Noah and Mia kind of share the protagonist role in Xenoblade 3, you know, one each on either side of the conflict. Looking it up, I didn't see a ton of debate about it. Everybody just says Noah's the main character. We're gonna go with Noah, but I feel like Mia has a strong case for being there as well. Noah is cool, collected. I think, you know, as far as Xeno characters go, he's pretty great. I'd probably rank him an A, but again, he's not gonna be S tier for me. Next, with the just released today, as of this filming actually, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on the Wii, or on the Switch finally. It was on the Wii U. Played it there first, enjoyed it immensely. Very happy that it's on the Switch now and more people get to play it. The Xenoblade X has that you create your own protagonist, so it doesn't really have a main character, but I would consider Elma the main character of Xenoblade X, sort of like, you know, the Tidus and Yuna situation, the Ishmael, Captain Ahab sort of thing. Your protagonist, your character is like the Ishmael, and Elma is the main character. Elma's cool. I like Elma a lot. I don't know. There are things about her that you won't find out until much later if you're playing the game for the first time that elevate her quite a bit. I would put her in A. We have Laura from the Torn of the Golden Country DLC / separate game, I guess, of Xenoblade 2. Laura's great, but I think you don't get to know her as well as a lot of other main characters because the story's relatively short, so I would probably have to rank her at a B. And finally, we have Matthew. Matthew is kind of unique. He's in a similar situation to Laura because he's the protagonist of Future Redeemed, which is the DLC that kind of brings all of the Xenoverse together, sort of ties everything up into a bow. And Matthew is unique in that he's basically Faye in terms of design and moveset. Like, he's not Faye in the story, but like, he's basically Faye. He was like an ode to Faye. Now, I wouldn't put him at an S just because of that. I think he's great, but he's not an S. I would think I would put him at an A though. I feel a lot of affection for him just because of who he is modeled after and kind of what it means emotionally and mentally to the series. Neewer, I have Neewer next. And the first protagonist in the Neewer series, you would think is Neewer, but he's never actually named. The protagonist in Neewer is never called Neewer, and he's not silent, so it's not like they didn't have an opportunity to say his name. So I don't know if his name is Neewer. I just think he's the protagonist. There's an old version and a young version. The old version is like my age, which hurts a little bit. It does sting a little bit. And then the young version from the remaster and what was originally released in Japan. I've only played the old character version, and I really liked that character a lot. I really liked seeing an older protagonist. I thought that was interesting. Even when I played it, I was not as old as I am now, but I still thought it was kind of cool to have an older protagonist like that. I think I would give the protagonist of Neewer an A. Next, we have 2B from Nier Automata. Really, you could put 2B, 9S, and A2. All three of them kind of as the shared protagonists of the series. We'll just represent them by 2B. They're all fantastic. I love the characters in Nier Automata. I love how the game uses them to explore like what humanity is and like what it actually means and how it's not as clear cut as you think from the get-go. So I'm gonna put them in A as well. Okay. We have the Phantasy Star games. Now, I've played all but Phantasy Star 3. So, you know, Phantasy Star 1, we have Alice, she's the main character. Love the like late 80s anime aesthetic. Like, it's very nostalgic for me of her design, but like, you know, she's not that exciting of a character. She's kind of a C, I guess. Next, we have Rolf from Phantasy Star 2. Again, kind of a nostalgic sort of character design based on the era. I don't know. I guess I'd probably put him at a C as well. He's just not, it was still early days for JRPGs, so there just isn't a ton of interesting things to say about him. He's maybe more interesting than Alice, so maybe I should put him at B. I'm gonna keep him at C just because it's, if I'm comparing it across not just the series, but across all JRPG protagonists, I don't think he rises above a C. Next we have Rice, I think it's pronounced Rice from Phantasy Star 3. Again, I haven't played Phantasy Star 3, so I don't know anything about the character. Looks like a dweeb. I'm gonna put him in didn't play, because I didn't play, but I think I would probably rank him at a D based on his dweebish appearance. And then finally we have Chaz from Final Fantasy IV. Phantasy Star, Final Fantasy Star, the Final Fantasy Star game. Chaz, you know, he gets kind of a C grade for his appearance. His name is a D, but he's, you know, a slightly more interesting character. I would put him at a C despite his appearance and the name Chaz, which I didn't think was an actual name. I thought it was just like a nickname, but his name is Chaz. So I don't know, he's a C. Okay, we're gonna talk about the Trails of series next. Now, you might not be surprised by how I rank some of these. You might be surprised on how I rank some of the others though. Estelle Bright is first, protagonist of the Sky arc. We'll be seeing her again in the Sky remake coming out later this year, again from Gung Ho, who's also bringing us the Lunar games, like I said earlier. Estelle has long been, for a long time she was my favorite. I'm not sure if she's my favorite protagonist anymore, but she's in second place if she's not in first. So she's an S tier for me. She's just cheerful and optimistic, but she has a nuanced personality. She experiences a whole range of emotions, and she is just a breath of fresh air in the JRPG landscape. I wish there were more characters like Estelle. Next up is Lloyd Bannings. I mentioned this on our podcast recently, the JRPG Pursuit. If you're not subscribed to that, check the link in the description. Would love it if you gave us a listen. But we were talking recently about, this may have been in an after show for members only, but we were talking about protagonists, favorite Trails protagonists. Lloyd came up, and of course, people praise Lloyd. They love Lloyd. I'm not crazy about Lloyd, guys. Like, he's fine, but he seems a little kind of just like generic justice. Like, there's not enough to him to make him interesting. He seems kind of vapid and like unaware of like obvious things going on around him sometimes, while other times he's like hyper focused on being a detective and like fighting for goodness. and it's just not my cup of tea. He's not a bad character. I would probably put him at a B personally. I know that a lot of people that are Trails fans would probably rank him S, if not, then maybe A, but probably S. I can't get there. I just can't get there with him. He's fine, but he's a B at best. Reen Schwarzer. We spent a lot of time with Reen, didn't we? We had 5 games basically with Reen as a protagonist. By far the most out of any game so far. Reen, there's a lot of opinions on Reen. I'm fond of him personally. I like seeing his growth over the several years of his life that, the series encompasses. Him, starting out as a student and then kind of becoming a soldier and then becoming a teacher and all the different things that he goes through. He has a little bit of the Mary Sue, or what is it, Gary Stu, like super special, got powers, kind of thing that's, I wish Trails wouldn't do so much because it doesn't really need to, but they kind of put some of those anime tropes in there that they don't need to. So I could do without that, but I would still put Reen at an A. He gets an A. And last on the Trails side, we have Van Arkride from the Daybreak subseries. Van is the character who may have replaced Estelle as my number 1. It goes back and forth, but right now, especially because Daybreak is more current and I'm just more, I have immediacy bias. Like, I feel like Van is my favorite protagonist right now. So he's an easy S. Like, I don't have much more to say about that. He's just a super cool character. I like how he just has a really kind of nuanced personality. He's a goofball, but also he can be very serious. He just shows just a broad spectrum of emotions, and I think that that's so important for a protagonist in one of these types of games to be able to do that. So I love Van. We're gonna talk about the Mana games next. So Mana is a series that I guess wouldn't traditionally have thought much about the characters. I think because Secret of Mana's characters were not super well developed. The main character of Secret of Mana is Randy. Strange name for a protagonist of a JRPG. I guess, the Trails series would try to redeem that name a little bit as well, but Randy is the main character. Pretty kind of standard design for a hero. Not a ton of personality. I think he's a C. Okay, Trials of Mana is the next game, and this game has multiple protagonists, so we're going to talk about each of them quickly. Duran is a warrior, super buff bro with sword and shield, long hair. I don't find him particularly interesting, honestly. I would probably give him a C. He's not a D, but I'd probably give him a C. Angela is like a mage type character. Design-wise, it's between B and C, and give her a B. Next up, we have, I think his name is Kevin, which I think is very funny. I don't know. Again, I know that there's a character in Trails named Kevin. I probably should have put Kevin on this list. He's technically a protagonist of one of the games. Kevin's an A. I don't have him on the list, but he would be an A. But Kevin of the Mana series, he's kind of looks like a tiger. His outfit makes him kind of look like a tiger. He's making a kind of thing. That's a little more interesting. I'd give him a B. Charlotte, I don't like that. Whatever I'm looking at right there, not a fan. C. Hawkeye, best character in MASH, also the character I chose first in Trials of Mana. I'd probably give him a B. And finally, Reese, again with the kind of crossover with the Trails games, there's a character named Reese. This is spelled a little different, but Reese is kind of cool looking, actually. I like her design. Kind of mixes like a fairy look with like a Valkyrie kind of thing. I'd give her a B. Yeah. And then finally, I'm not doing all the Mana games, just the ones that I have some experience with. We have Val from Visions of Mana. He kind of looks like a remixed version of Randy, but with more detail and definitely a much, much, much more interesting personality. I think I would probably rank him an A because I really found the story and his involvement in the story of Visions of Mana to be really moving, and I like the character a lot. So he gets an A. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go through the Atelier games. We're gonna go pretty quickly here because I've only played a couple of them, but we're gonna put the rest of them, in the didn't play. So Rabrona, I played it. She's a great character. She's a lot of fun, bubbly, very hardworking and optimistic. And, the stakes aren't super high in the Rabrona game, but she's a cool character. I probably would put her at a B. So the next ones I have not played. Toturi, haven't played it. Maruru, Aisha, Shally, Sophie, Lydie and Suel, Lulua, Ryza. So didn't play, looking forward to going back and playing them, particularly because I have just recently played Yumiya. So Yumiya, I think she's a super, super cool character. I really like her story. She has an interesting design. Obviously they're trying to emphasize certain things about her design, but if I'm looking at it as not a weirdo, she's just a cool character. She's very fun. She's a little bit of a goofball, but she's also very focused, and the way her story kind of coalesces into the main plot of the game, I thought was really well done. I would put you at an A. I'd give her an A. She's a very good protagonist. Adol Kristen from the East series, right? Adol is one of the most well-known, longest existing JRPG protagonists, right? There have been 10 mainline East games, well, 11 if you include Origins, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Adol's been the main character of 10 East games. And, you know, he unfortunately has not had much of a personality until East 8 kind of started giving him more personality and more to do in the story. He's still technically silent, but I feel like Falcom is tiptoeing towards making him more voiced, which I'm really hoping happens. But Adol is great. I can't put him at an S, despite my affection for the series, just because he doesn't really have as much personality as a character with his vintage should. He should be way more developed. Like, they've had 10 games. They could have been doing all this really interesting character development with him all this time, and they haven't because he's been a silent protagonist. So I give him an A just because he's so cool and I love the series so much, but he just can't be an S until and unless they start giving him a character. You know what I mean? Giving him a personality. Okay, talking about Origin. So East Origin is the only game in the series not to star Adol, and it has 3 protagonists. So the first one is Unica. She's like the brawler type. She's got this big axe and she's very earnest and she's a cool character. I don't know. And maybe this applies honestly to all of them. Like, they are all voiced, like not voiced, but like they're not silent protagonists, right? Like, so they're not at all. They have personality. It's Unica, Hugo, and Toll are the three main characters in this game. They're all at least somewhat interesting, but not to a level that I think outclasses a C. So I would probably put all 3 of them in C. Not to say I love East Origin, and I actually like the story of East Origin quite a bit, but they're just not developed enough to rise out of that C. Okay, Star Ocean 1. I have not technically really played it. Roddick is the main character there. Interesting design. The hair color is a little strange. I'm gonna put him in didn't play because I haven't played it, but yeah, he's interesting. Now, Star Ocean, the second story, the recent remaster looks amazing. I haven't played it yet, but I played the original. Rena and Claude are the dual protagonists there. I really like Rena and Claude a lot, especially Rena. I think she was the first person I played through as. I would probably put them at a B. Maybe they get more development. Maybe there's better and more interesting dialogue in the remake. I haven't played it yet, but based on my experience with the original, I would probably say a B. Next up is Fate from Star Ocean Till the End of Time. Don't care for him so much. I played it, you know, back when it came out, so it's been a long time. I'd probably put him at a D, yeah. Now, the rest of the Star Ocean games I have not played. Star Ocean 4 has Edge. Don't like that name. Don't like his design. 5 is Fidel. He just kind of looks like a generic protagonist. If you're gonna name your character after a dictator, I feel like they need to be a little more interesting in appearance. And then 6, I thought that Raymond was the main character of Star Ocean 6. Apparently, people are saying that it's like a dual protagonist situation with Letitia, Raymond and Letitia. Again, I haven't played it, so didn't play, but you know, let me know what you think down below. All right, we're gonna do Octopath, and there are 16 characters between these 2 games, so we need to pick up the pace. Okay, we have Hanit. She's the hunter. Didn't find her character interesting. The design is cool though, C. We have Ulberich. Ulberich is kind of a generic warrior. He doesn't feel that interesting to me. He gets a C. Cyrus is a scholar. I liked his story quite a bit more than the previous 2 I just mentioned, but I think he's a B. He's not as interesting as he could be. Tressa is the merchant. She's the youngest of the characters. I think she's 18, so she's like fresh-faced kid. She was what I chose as my main protagonist the first time I played Octopath, and obviously you play all their stories, but she was the one I chose first. And I actually really liked her story quite a bit. Her personality, I think, rises her to a B. I would probably give her a B. We have Ophelia. Her story is also very interesting. She goes through some stuff as well. I'd probably put her at a B. Alphen is the apothecary. I did not expect to be moved by his story, but his story I think is the most moving in the game. Really, really like Alphen. I'm gonna make him an A because I think his story is just very like deep, and it asks a lot of really heavy questions, which I was not expecting. We have Primrose. Primrose is the dancer. Her story is very dark. She's cool. Probably give her a B. And then we have Therian, the thief. I remember the least about his story, I want to say. I'm pretty sure my brother really likes Therian though, so I don't want to disrespect that by putting him lower than a B. So I'll put him at B. Okay, moving into Octopath 2, we have Agnia. Agnia is the dancer. She is very upbeat. I really liked her story, the performance of the actress. I think it was Xanthi Lin who plays her. I could be wrong about that, but I just remember really liking her story. I would probably put her at B. Casty, I don't think I did Casty's story yet. I abandoned Octopath 2, by the way. I didn't mention that. I got several hours in and I just kind of lost interest, I think because it was too similar to the first game. So I can really only talk about the characters that I experienced, at least some of their story. Casty, I'm gonna put didn't play. Hikari, again, you know, cool design. I don't think I really played. Ochette, yeah, interesting, didn't play. Oswald, I did play a bit of his story. It's interesting. The way his story is structured is pretty different than everybody else's. Like having to get him out of prison is how it all starts out. So he's not in the same area as everybody else. So that's kind of an interesting twist. I'd probably give him a C though. Particio, the businessman, he's the merchant character. I really like how this picture of him, I always see it and I always think he's flipping the camera off, but he's just pointing. But I like Particio quite a lot. I would probably give him a B. We have Temenos. I did a bit of Temenos' story, not enough for me to have a full opinion about him. Based on what I've seen, I'd probably say a C, but I have a feeling that there's a lot more there that I just haven't experienced yet. And then Throne, she's the character I think I chose as my focal character. I like the dark, kind of gritty stories in those games quite a bit. So Throne ranked pretty high for me. I'd probably give her a B. Okay, Aya Brea from Parasite Eve. Boy, oh boy. Not a super interesting character to me. Interesting in that she's very different from every protagonist on this list. She's a cop, right? She's just like a police officer. That's weird. She is the kind of special, like chosen one sort of in a way. I don't want to go into details of the story, but you know, I think she's a novelty, right? Like a modern day police officer as a protagonist of a JRPG. That's at least interesting. That's at least worth a C, I would say. Okay, I want to talk about Bravely Default real quick. Both of these characters in Bravely Default 1 and 2, we have Tiz and Seth. They are just very bland to me. They're not completely uninteresting in terms of their characterizations, but I would put them both at C just because they're kind of, you know, just so-so. Oliver from Ni no Kuni, he's a kid. Not crazy about the kid character. I'd give him a C. And then Ni no Kuni 2 has dual protagonists. It's Roland and Evan, right? Evan? Yeah, Evan and Roland. And I like that, you know, Roland is like the president of like, I'm guessing the US. I don't know, it's like some modern country in like the real world, and gets pulled over into this other world, and like seeing how like somebody like a politician from our world would have to deal with being transported to a fantasy, like an isekai story, right? And then Evan is the kid character, like the obligatory kid Ni no Kuni character. But I like him more than Oliver. I would put them together at a B. And before I realized it, that's it. We did it. We covered all of them. Holy cow, you guys. This has been an hour plus of me talking at the camera about JRPG protagonists. Please let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Do you agree with my choices? How strongly do you disagree with them? I think that's probably more interesting. So let me have it down below. If you wouldn't mind liking the video and subscribing, I would really appreciate it. I hope this was fun. Obviously it was like really long, so I don't know if you just put this on in the background and went about your day. I think that's fantastic if you did that, thank you. But I wouldn't, you know, expect you to be like focused on this for an hour and 15 minutes or whatever it ends up being. So thank you so much for watching it, regardless, and for liking, subscribing, and all that good stuff. And until next time, bye.